All right, time for lunch, so let's get over to the kitchen and check in today with ABC7 Culinary Director Judi Gallagher. Judi?
You know, no matter what the temperature is outside, sometimes it just feels good to have something cooking in the crock pot or a Dutch oven for hours at a time. This is a great dish that you're gonna wanna make to just curl up on the couch, maybe watch some Monday Night Football, or certainly consider to have a meal like the night before Thanksgiving when you probably wanna eat a little bit lighter. But this is actually a vegetable curry stew. So we're gonna use Malaysian seasonings and Thai coconut seasonings, bring it together with Peruvian purple potatoes and cauliflower and just all sorts of essences of greatness, including fresh ginger. So stay with me throughout the hours. We simmer up this beautiful vegetable chickpea stew that I think everybody's gonna enjoy. Now, even if you're going to use a slow cooker, I really recommend you start out by sauteing the onions in the pan as we're about to do. So a little bit of olive oil, probably about 2 tablespoons, and 1 diced medium-sized onion will do it. We're going to let that get translucent, which means it's not going to brown. It's just going to get tender. And we call it translucent. It's not quite that you can see through it, but you'll get the basic idea of it. So what you want to do is make sure you get all your vegetables prepped ahead of time. So what I do is I do cheat on the butternut squash. You may recall I go over to Whole Foods and they have containers already cut for you, and that's the one thing that I get my back a rest on because they're really hard to cut. I also brought in Peruvian potatoes and the white sweet potatoes, so we have a wide variety of colors. Cauliflower, now you can get the regular, of course, white cauliflower that we know, but also it comes in orange and purple. So if you're using, say, chef potatoes instead of the purple potatoes, that's fine. These types of potatoes are more dense, a little more starchy in the sweet potato, but they are delicious. Okay, for the sake of time, they're almost there. So now we're going to add green, yellow, and red peppers. And this is going to really make the dish very bright. So a lot of times we just think of vegetable soup and vegetable curries, and we don't use peppers. But sweet peppers just add a really great note. So we're going to let this saute for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to add in about 3 tablespoons of ginger. The whole time I'm doing it, I'm readjusting the seasonings. Now, I always look, you know I say, shop your refrigerator. I had some leftover Spanish rice, so instead of cooking couscous or regular jasmine rice, I'm gonna just use that as the finishing touch. So I have everything organized. The kale is gonna be one of the last things that's gonna go in, but we're gonna give this about, say, 5 minutes of just simmering down. And then just with the back of my knife, I shot it, that's about a teaspoon. So we have a little Moroccan seasoning, Malaysian seasonings, and then that Thai curry seasoning. That's gonna bring all the flavors together. So we're gonna simmer this down a little bit more. And then, before we go to break, we're gonna add about a tablespoon of brown sugar. So let that brown sugar melt in to the onions and the peppers, and I'll come back to finish up this delicious, heartwarming dish. Okay, let's take a look. Now those seasonings have just melted in there with the brown sugar. And do a little adjusting on the seasoning because we're gonna add a teeny bit of cayenne powder. So get the flavor profiles. A little too spicy. Some of the potatoes are gonna absorb that spice. It's always an extra trick is add a peeled potato cut in half, and that will absorb a little bit of the extra salt or spice. Not all of it though. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna deglaze with a little vegetable stock. And again, we'll just bring that in more to a syrup stage, so to speak. And we'll move that around a little bit. Now, this can go in a Dutch oven, which I have right in front, or it can go in your crock pot. And depending on whether you want to cook it on low or high, adjust the temperature. So next, what we're going to do into the crock pot is that butternut squash that's cut, 1 can of diced tomatoes with their juice, a little bit more ginger because I love ginger. We're going to add some cauliflower, and we're going to add the potatoes. So I have the white sweet potato, and then I have the purple sweet potato and purple Peruvian potatoes, all going to add great flavor. So let's give it a little stir. There we go. All right, it's coming together. Let's add the rest of the vegetable stock and bring that together with 1 can of drained and rinsed chickpeas, okay? Always make sure that you rinse them because you want to get that little bit of sliminess that's in the can, so you want to get that going together. Now we're going to go back, the old chef knife trip, right? I'm just taking my boning knife and we'll put in some coconut Thai curry, some Malaysian and Moroccan seasonings, and we're going to put the lid on and we're going to let this go for 4 hours. So let's take a visit here with our stew that has been simmering in the oven. I put it back on the stove. Now we're going to take about a cup of baby kale. I much prefer to spend the money of getting, even though it says washed, I wash it again, for, you know, in the container and rinse. But the baby kale, it's much more delicate. It's not going to give you the chewy gnawing pieces. I think you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes it's like, ooh. Okay, so now we're going to add a little coconut milk, and I have the culinary coconut milk that you can pick up on the store shelves, or you can use a regular can of coconut milk. So we'll give this a stir in. So now you see where you're getting the depth. You know, at first you're going to say, it looks a little watery, kind of looks like maybe it's more of a soup. But as it cooks down for 4 hours in that oven or crock pot, look at this. I mean, this can even use a little more kale right there. Oh, I'm in love. Okay, so of course I had to pick up a loaf of crusty hearth bread, and let's get a little of this rice in there. And I'm just going to garnish it with the rice because I don't think it needs much of anything. So there you have it, crusty cranberry walnut bread. A little trick, sometimes with vegetable stew, I like to put 1 little drizzle of olive oil on top. All those flavors come together and they are absolutely delicious. So I'll be back for a taste in just a few minutes. So our vegetable curried stew is done, and we add that depth of the coconut milk at the end, a little rice on top. I happen to have Spanish rice left over, so use that, but you can mix in quinoa or couscous or jasmine rice. A great cheat starter, say you only have about an hour and a half instead of the traditional 4 hours that would go in a crock pot, use the lentil vegan soup that you get over at Whole Foods. It's fantastic. Add 1 or 2 of those in the beginning, and what happens is that's going to give it that extra flavor that another 2 hours would have taken. I'm going to serve it with that crusty bread, and all those flavors and ginger and curries all come together, and this is quite filling. So 1 bowl and you're going to feel like you're ready for your pajamas. You can get this recipe and a lot more on our dining page. Go on mysuncoast.com, click on recipes, and we have much more to offer, like restaurant recommendations and events happening in town. So I'm going to take a little taste of my own cooking and I'm going to send it back to you.